next video is on Exodus chapter 19, verses 5 and 6, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Remember, the context is 3 months, as we read in verse 1, since the children of Israel gone out of the land of Egypt, exactly 3 months, and they came to the wilderness of Sinai. And they camped there in the wilderness, and Israel camped there before the mountain. Moses went up to God, and God called to him from the mountain, saying, "Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel." This is a conversation between Moses and God. And before Moses, of course, then recites this in verse 7, we have looked at the fact that in verse 4, God tells him to recall what he had done to the Egyptians and how he bore you on the eagle's wings and brought you to myself. That was the purpose of their redemption. But then in verses 5 and 6, it wasn't just that they were redeemed to God. Now they are to represent him here in verse 6, 5 and 6. Let's read those verses. "Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel." And so God's purpose for Israel did not end with relationship. It extended to representation. A kingdom. You shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. A priest lives in God's presence and represents God to others. Israel was redeemed not only to belong to God, but to make him known. And for us as Christians in the New Testament, this is confirmed. 1 Peter 2 verse 9, "You are a chosen generation," running to Christians, "a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people." 1 Peter 2 and verse 9. God's people are redeemed to serve, witness, and mediate God's truth to the world. Israel's obedience was never meant to earn redemption. It was the response to grace already received. And that's remember when we come to the New Testament, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, "We are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." And so to be a holy nation meant being set apart in character, conduct, and loyalty. Holiness was not isolation, but distinction. And Peter reminds us, doesn't he, in his letter about the need to live holy lives. Several times he mentions in 1 Peter about the need to live holy lives. One example is chapter 1, verse 15, "As he who has called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct." David Goodin stresses the wonder of this calling. Former slaves were elevated into royal service. God did not merely free them, he entrusted them with his name and reputation among the nations. This priestly calling is rooted in Christ's redeeming work. 1 Peter 1, still in chapter 1, verse 18 and 19, "You are not redeemed with corruptible things, such as silver and gold, with the precious blood of Christ." And this priestly calling is to be sustained by ongoing devotion. Romans 12 verse 1, "I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, you present your bodies a living sacrifice." This imagery continues. 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 2, Paul writing to the Corinthians, "I have betrothed you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ." Paul wanted the Corinthian believers to be completely devoted to Christ, with all the jealousy and the devotion that there should be. in that marriage relationship. God still seeks a people who belong wholly to Him, loved, holy, and devoted. And so as we finish, the challenge is going to be, do our lives as Christians reflect the dignity of our calling as priests of God, living sacrifices and witnesses of His grace? Do our lives reflect the dignity of our calling as priests of God, living sacrifices and witnesses of His grace? Let's remember, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And let's remember 1 Peter 2 reminds us that for Christians, we are now the ones who represent God as a kingdom of priests and as a group of people that belong to God Himself. Thank you for listening.